Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Backchat. Welcome to Yogaberry, your yoga for scoliosis community. I'm Christine Jaureguiberry. For those of you who don't know me yet, I'm a yoga teacher. I specialize in yoga for scoliosis. And today we're going to be talking about rest and relaxation, and how does that kind of relate back to scoliosis? Well, this is what I'm going to discuss, of course. But if you are here live, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the chat if you can. Obviously, if you're doing something else, then don't. But if you can, maybe let me know if this is your first time here. Or if you are regular, let me know where you are in the world. This is quite an international community, and I really, really love that about the work that I do as well, right? It's not just about sharing what I know about scoliosis and what I know from teaching students that have scoliosis and working with lots of people that have scoliosis and running my YouTube channel and all of that over the years. But there's also been some fabulous connections being made that have nothing to do with me at all, except for maybe that they are members of my scoliosis community, which you're more than welcome to check out on Facebook as well, if you haven't already. And for example, I was working with a mum the other day, a mother who's got a daughter with scoliosis. I was working with the daughter, obviously, but the mum was there as well. And she was in India, and she had been going down the routes of, seeing lots of physiotherapists and making a lot of connections already. And so I was giving her some input of what she could do for in terms of yoga practice. But then I had someone else asking, do you know anyone in India who can help me? Obviously, I'm not in India. I'm based in the UK. And especially for children, I always recommend to work with someone in person. And so, yeah, I just put them in touch with each other. I don't know if they actually managed to have a conversation, but at least knowing that there is somebody else in your area who's got some resources, maybe, I think is really important. So this is why, please do use the community. This is why I'm asking, where are you in the world? Where are you from? And hopefully also, connecting some people who might need it. Good. So I can see there's a few of you joining here, which is fabulous. So I'm hoping that everything is working well. And I'm going to dive straight into what I'm talking about today. So I'm talking about resting and restoring. And if you've been to my class today, my Wednesday afternoon class, we did a little bit of rest and restore, like a little snippet of resting and restoring. And I feel very, very passionate about this. I think it's a really important topic and something that kind of gets brushed away a little bit. And I had a one-to-one session with someone this week, and she was saying how she very often just kind of wakes up in the morning and doesn't actually feel rested. Has that happened to anyone else here? Maybe. Does that sound familiar? So, and this is really something that I find is affects a lot of people with scoliosis who cannot get a good night's sleep, and just feel not very rested, or feel like the body is kind of worse off almost in the morning than it is sometime during the day. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Please do let me know. Let me know in the chat if this is something that you can relate with. Certainly for me, this is kind of something that happens quite regularly, I would say, that I wake up in the morning and feel like, okay, I got my sleep, but now I need to, my body doesn't quite feel quite ready yet. And maybe that's a little bit more kind of trying to get going. But it might also be that during the day, I realize actually I probably didn't get enough rest. Good. Liz is saying hello, Christine. Liz from Yorkshire. Let me bring this up here as well so you can read it. I wake up and I still feel tired. Yes. What is that all about, right? How can we, and I don't know about you, Liz, how much sleep you get, but most people, if I talk to them, I ask, how much sleep do you get? And if they say 3 hours, fine, that's probably not enough. But if you're getting like 7 hours of sleep and you're still feeling tired, then okay, either maybe there's something that happened before, that you've gone through periods of no sleep, or maybe your body is just not rested. And really, this is something I think that we can change and that we can address. Good. So Lauren Mitchell, Lauren from New Jersey, absolutely feel this way. Yes. Good. Some of you can relate to this. So obviously sleep is important, right? We know this. And if anyone is into neuroscience and, likes to dig deep, I can recommend the Huberman Lab podcast. It's a really, really good neuroscience podcast. And Andrew Huberman, he talks about sleep all the time. So if you are into this topic, and he gives some amazing tips about how to get better sleep. He talks about the different phases of sleep, the different, what happens in each phase. You've got the REM phase, you've got kind of a dream phase, different parts. That's not what I'm here to talk about today, but if you are interested in that, please check out his podcast. It is really good. So we know that, right? We know that we need the sleep for our brain and recovery and all of that. We know, and I have talked about daily living positions for sleeping before. Daily living, nightly living, more nightly living. So what we can do, obviously, is what we can affect is not only kind of prepare the body for sleep and making sure, we don't watch TV very late at night, no screens and all of that. Doing a little bit of yoga practice in the evening, whatever it is you need to kind of wind down and prepare for sleep. That is all really important. Sleeping positions are also important. However, I find that this is a little bit of a tricky one. If you are kind of a mover, like I am, I move around quite a bit. I turn from one side, I turn to the other side. I don't just lay in one position. If you can be in one position, great. You can prop yourself up, right? You can do everything that you need to do. You can sleep on your concave side, which is better than sleeping on your convex side. You can support yourself with pillows. You can make sure if you can, lie on your back because that's more balanced. You can support the backs of the knees and do all of that, right? I've got a video about this where I'm talking about the sleeping positions, about 10 minutes long or something. It's one of my most popular videos, by the way. But obviously, if you are kind of moving about the whole time, that is kind of becomes a little bit, that might not be the solution, right? So we are talking about what we can do kind of afterwards or during the day to feel rested. Good. So let me just have a quick look here. So Zira, I'm from the Philippines. I have dextroscoliosis. Sometimes I felt something is trapped in my throat. Oh dear. But in terms sleeping is quite all right. Good. Okay. That's good. You're getting a good night's sleep at least. Liz is saying, I would say about 7 hours. If I get up before 9 a.m., I often have to go and lie down again. My body just feels too tired to hold myself up. Okay. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Liz. And yes, I do think that the amount of sleep is important, but I think it's also the quality of sleep. And in terms of kind of feeling exhausted, there's so much more about this, right? What is it that is actually exhausted? Is it your body? Is it physical? Is it your muscles? Is it your brain? Is there maybe stress? Is there a lot of tension going on? And this is why I want to talk a little bit about the autonomic nervous system, and about stress, because stress absolutely can have an effect on how we feel, obviously, physically. We know that, right? So I'm not going to go into huge amounts of detail here, but just to give you a little bit of information. And you might have heard about the polyvagal theory, Stephen Porges, about the autonomic nervous system. And what he says is there's three different states. The first one is kind of the rest and repair state. So rest and digest, it's sometimes called as well. It's when we feel relaxed. It's part of being in the parasympathetic nervous system. It's kind of a nice state to be in, and everything is kind of working well, and we just go about our day. Everything is good. Second state is the kind of fight or flight response, which sometimes is needed, right? We do need a little bit of stress sometimes, otherwise we wouldn't do anything, right? So we need a little bit of that pressure sometimes. And obviously, if we are in a dangerous situation, we want the body to move and to get us off the road. I don't know, if we're about to get hit by a car or something like that. It is important, right? We do need to be able to run away. That's the second state, fight or flight, sympathetic nervous system, this is called. You might feel your heartbeat is getting faster, your muscles are activating, anything like that. The third state is the freeze state, which you might have heard about before. It's called the dorsal vagal activation as well sometimes. This is the state, again, part of the parasympathetic nervous system that shuts down, right? If it's too much stress, you're shutting down and nothing is working anymore. It's basically for the body just to use the minimum amount of effort, the minimum amount that it kind of needs to stay alive, but everything else is going to be shut down completely. So I've got a little example of this. I used to have, I was observing, I was a child, I had a rabbit, and it was most of the time it was in the cage, but we had quite an enclosed garden, so it could kind of hop about quite freely when it wanted. So it was quite a happy bunny, generally in the state number 1, right? So generally in the rest and digest repair state, hopping about, having everything that it needed. One day I had a friend come over who had a dog, and it was a hunter, right? Nobody could control that dog. I didn't have time to get the rabbit back into his cage, so it was all mental. Basically, the dog started chasing the rabbit. Rabbit completely freaked out, hopped all over the place. It was just, it was very painful to watch. It didn't last very long, because we got the dog, obviously, and got him out of there. Fortunately, nothing happened to the rabbit. You'll be pleased to hear. It was fine. But after this, my rabbit basically crashed, right? It was too much. That was too much stress. And it just kind of flopped somewhere on the side. And honestly, I thought it wasn't alive anymore, but he was absolutely. He just completely went floppy and repaired. That's what it did. It kind of minimum amount of effort, but this is how he kind of restored and kind of came back. So after that, he was absolutely fine. He kind of brushed this episode off, and it was hopping about again the same way. So what I'm trying to demonstrate is that it's really important that we can move between those 3 states. And most of us, unfortunately, are in the second state. So most of us are in this fight or flight situation for most of the time, right? There's messages coming in. There's the news, pandemic. There is things to do. I don't know. If you've got children, they want something from you all the time, right? There is, I don't know what it is. I don't know what's happening in your life, but chances are that you are being bombarded with stressful sort of input all the time. And it's this type of chronic stress, which is very, I'm going to say dangerous for the body. The body does not like it. The body will not have a chance to repair, to heal itself, right? And then when we do get to sleep, we don't get a good night's sleep because there's still lots of kind of activity going on. We cannot completely kind of wind down and completely rest. So obviously, what is the solution to all of this? How are we going to have less stress? Very difficult to say and very individual, obviously, but maybe that's something to think about. Is there things that we can eliminate, maybe that are not necessary, that we don't have to do, or that somebody else can do? Anything like that to think about. And then the other thing to think about is, what can we do to rest? And I mean not to sleep, but to rest. So I do make that separation between sleeping and resting, especially when it comes to scoliosis, because as we've established, very often sleeping does not mean that you feel rested in any way, right? So you still need to do it, obviously. Don't abandon the sleep completely, but it might not be enough. It might not be the only thing to do. It might not be that you need to go to bed at 9 o'clock every night to get your 9 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep. But it might mean that you need something else to top up your rest. So I am a fan. You're obviously waiting for my solution. I wish I had the magic thing that saves us all. For me, restorative yoga is a solution and it's a tool. And I have to be really disciplined about this, right? I have to make sure that I schedule it in, that I do it, because otherwise, guess what? It doesn't work. That's what yoga teachers always say, is yoga only works if you actually do it. For those of you who are not familiar with restorative yoga, it's basically a type of yoga where you are fully supported by cushions, blankets, props in a position. There's different restorative yoga poses. And then you stay in this position for a set amount of time. You usually set yourself a timer, or if you're attending a class, obviously the teacher will guide you in and guide you out of the pose as well. But it's really, it's a very, very clever way, and I find it very helpful for scoliosis, because we start with the body, right? We don't sit in meditation and say, empty your mind and all of that. No, which is very difficult, again, with scoliosis, but we make the body comfortable. So that's priority number one. Now, we know that this doesn't always work for sleeping because we move about, right? But if we are in a wakeful state, if we are not sleeping, we can stay in this position, right? We have the control to be in this position. We are conscious. So this is another way of describing restorative yoga, is conscious deep rest, conscious rest, supported by lots of props. That's how it's different from sleeping. Good, lovely. Laura is saying today's class had an awesome restorative pose. I had never experienced that one before. Oh, I wonder which one that was. I did try to sneak in a few into the class today. But yes, pretty much most active yoga poses can be kind of transformed into a restorative yoga pose. So it's a really interesting and great practice. Yes, it's slow and it takes patience. So you stay in the poses for usually a minimum of 5 minutes. So it's kind of like between 5 and 20 minutes. That's a lot longer than, for example, yin yoga, if anyone is familiar with that. So yin yoga is typically anything between like 3 and 5 minutes. So it's a little bit shorter time. And maybe let me know if anyone has practiced any of these types of yoga before, or if this is all completely new to you. Good. So Laura is saying the one with the bolster. So I think it was Supta Baddha Konasana, wasn't it? The supported reclining bound angle pose in English. And yes, that's one of the poses that I really like. I'll see if I can find it in here. But I do have a picture actually on my Instagram today of that pose as well, if anyone wants to recreate it. There it is. I don't know if I'm allowed to show pages from books. It's probably copyright, but I show it very quickly. And I promote the book, obviously, as well. This is Judith Hansen-Lasseter, Restore and Rebalance, which is a great resource for restorative yoga poses. She's got another one, which is called Relax and Renew. It's a little bit older and a little bit more detailed, but both of them are great if you kind of want to know more about these poses. Also on my YouTube channel, again, I sneak those poses into the practice. And for example, the side lying one on a bolster, that if you've practiced any of my yoga practices for scoliosis, that is coming from restorative yoga as well. So a couple of things here. Sometimes, so again, this brings me back to my one-to-one student, which I had this week. Sometimes it's not so much about, what exactly you need to do for your type of scoliosis. We have to adjust this, we have to change that, we have to adjust this. Sometimes it's this is more pressing, right? The being in this fight and flight situation, stressful, chronic stress, that kind of affects the body in such a way that there is tension, back pain, we feel achy all the time. Isn't it more important to address this first, maybe, and allow for the body and the mind to relax? So this is what we did on this occasion, is we just made sure we got our little dose of resting and restoring in, rather than to kind of think about all the things we should be doing for our scoliosis. So just something to think about. And also, I think it's really helpful, and I've talked about this in a different episode where I talked about pain, to make this connection. And I've been doing this a lot more this year, been exploring this a lot more this year, how my mental state maybe affects my body as well, and how what is going on in my life affects my back. And is there more pain? Is there a connection between the two? So again, something to consider. Good. So I'm opening up to any questions. I've kind of covered what I wanted to say. So if anyone has got something that they want to bring up or that they want to some advice on or anything that you want me to address, then feel free to put this in the chat now. Good. So I just wanted to go back to Liz's comment about 7 hours. So she does get enough sleep, apparently, from what she is saying. But it is that the body is just feeling too tired to hold herself up. So my advice for something like that would be probably first thing to do is just lying flat on your back and not on a bed, but on a hard surface, and kind of allowing the body to reset before you continue with your day. And again, it's usually a force of gravity. The curvature is taking you one way. You're trying to keep the body up so that the eyes are level with the horizon. So that takes a huge amount of effort, right? Your bones are taking you over into one direction. Your muscles are also kind of reacting to this. So of course, this takes a huge amount of effort, right? And it takes, it takes a lot of energy. So sleep, of course, is important. You're getting that. Fluids are important. So making sure to drink enough water, to drink plenty of water, especially if you feel that muscle fatigue. That can sometimes be. So hydration is really, really important. And then allowing the body to rest as well. Again, lying on your back is a really, really great thing to do. Good. Lovely. We've got SI here saying, first timer, I'm in Sacramento, California. Lovely. Welcome as well. And thank you so much for tuning in. So today we were talking about resting and restoring, relaxation, the importance of this for the body. Sometimes we can wake up in the morning and just not feel rested. So it's really important that we dig a little bit deeper and ask ourselves why this is happening, and maybe adding a little bit more rest into our daily routine. So I know a lot of you are very good with your daily yoga practice, and you have got all your exercises that you're doing. You've got all your, you've got your bridges, you've got your core strengthening, you've got all the things that you need to do. But have you got a resting pose as well? And how long is it? Probably not long enough if you're not feeling rested. Good, lovely. So if there isn't anything else today, guys, we're gonna keep it at this. In the Yoga for Scoliosis community, I have put in the topics, upcoming topics for back chat. So make sure you check that out. Next week we're gonna talk about back bending. So make sure you tune in. If you are a teacher, join me on in the workshop on the 9th and 16th of October, where you'll learn all about working with students that have scoliosis, what to do, what not to do, and all of that. So if you are a teacher, or if you know a yoga teacher who would benefit from this, make sure to pass it on to them. Yay! Gail is saying yay. Yes, make sure. And Gail has done it before, I think in a different format. But yes, it's a great way to learn what it is that we can do as teachers to support our students that have scoliosis and spinal fusion, and what are maybe some poses that we can focus a little bit more on. Good, lovely. I think that was the other Liz saying, I find doing stretches, pelvic exercise before bedtime really helps to relax everything. Yes, and that's another great point, Liz, is it's the pre-sleep routine, right? And this is again something we were discussing with Tanya this week, my one-to-one client, that maybe we should do some of those slower things, the restorative yoga poses, before going to bed, to give the body a little bit of a signal of it's time to sleep now. Good. Gail, you've got some suggestion with for back chat. Yes, I think you sent me an email about this. I'm going to have a look at that, definitely. And yeah, anyone else as well. If you've got someone you want to see, hear me interviewing them, not just me talking, then feel free to send me an email. It's christine@jaureguiberry.net. And otherwise, I hope to see you very soon. And thank you so much for watching. Bye, everyone.